Something massive just dropped in the ongoing circus surrounding Blake Lively, and this time, it's not just her that's under fire. The internet is exploding over court filings, leaked statements, and explosive new documents that show a coordinated legal strategy by Blake Lively's team, targeting dozens of independent YouTubers, commentators, and creators, from Hollywood breakdown channels to legal experts to pop culture critics. Lively's attorneys have been quietly and aggressively issuing subpoenas to silence dissent and control the narrative. But here's where it gets even more scandalous. Her own legal team is now being accused of lying to the court about it. Yes, you heard that right. A prominent entertainment lawyer tied to Blake's camp is now under scrutiny for allegedly misleading the court about how widespread their subpoena strategy really is. And what makes this whole thing even messier, many of the creators being targeted say they were never even contacted prior to being served. No warning, no outreach. Just cold subpoenas demanding private messages, financial documents, and even correspondence with sources. It's all playing out in real time, and the backlash is intense. This isn't just about one celebrity feud anymore. This is about control, intimidation, and the weaponization of the legal system against independent media. And the irony is, glaring, Blake Lively, who has spent the better part of her career cultivating a polished, media-savvy image, is now being called out as the driving force behind a campaign that critics say is anti-free speech, hypocritical, and dangerous. We're diving deep into the details, what the subpoenas say, who's been served, how creators are reacting, and most importantly, how Blake Lively's lawyers may have just landed themselves in hot water. With the court, the public is outraged. Legal experts are raising red flags, and the PR fallout is spiraling faster than anyone expected. The moment the story broke, everything changed. It wasn't just another headline in the Blake Lively versus Justin Baldoni legal saga. This was something darker, something that cut through the noise of celebrity drama and struck at the heart of online creators' free speech and public accountability. Court documents revealed that Blake Lively's legal team had been quietly issuing subpoenas to a shocking number of YouTubers and content creators, including small independent commentators, legal analysts, and even pop culture gossip channels. For months, this had been happening behind the scenes. Creators received official legal notices demanding they turn over private messages, raw footage, and internal communications, simply because they discussed the Blake Lively lawsuit on their platforms. And then, just as quickly, another bombshell dropped. Blake's lawyer allegedly lied to the court about it, lied about how many subpoenas were sent, lied about what was being asked for, lied about why this was even necessary in the first place. Legal filings obtained by investigative reporters suggest the legal team downplayed their actions in official court statements, describing the subpoenas as limited and narrow, when in reality creators across multiple continents were being targeted indiscriminately. What began as a lawsuit over defamation and misconduct accusations has now ballooned into a full-blown crisis of credibility for Blake Lively and her legal team. And the public reaction has been ferocious. Let's rewind to how it started. For months, Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni have been locked in a bitter and escalating legal war. Allegations, countersuits, leaks, public statements. It's been a chaotic back and forth that has gripped Hollywood and social media alike. But at some point, Blake's team appeared to shift tactics. Rather than solely focusing on their opponent in the courtroom, they began to target the narrative itself. Multiple sources inside the entertainment law world have pointed out a disturbing trend: the increased use of subpoenas to silence or intimidate critics. It's not illegal, but it is controversial, especially when it's perceived as retaliatory. And in Blake's case, it has sparked widespread outrage because of who she's going after. Not just traditional press outlets or gossip magazines, but small creators, private individuals, and even anonymous Twitter accounts. Among the first to speak out was a mid-sized legal YouTuber who goes by the name LA Law Breakdown. In a now viral video, the creator tearfully revealed that he had received a subpoena from Lively's attorneys demanding access to every email, text message, and direct message he had exchanged regarding her lawsuit going back over a year. "I'm just a guy with a webcam," he said. "I talk about court filings that are public. I'm not part of some conspiracy. But now I have to hire a lawyer, pay thousands, and potentially be dragged into depositions for simply talking." He wasn't the only one. A pop culture creator known for her detailed timelines of celebrity feuds, who operates under the pseudonym TB Daylight, posted screenshots of what appeared to be a subpoena signed by Blake's legal representative. The documents requested months of content, private Discord logs, and communications with anyone connected to the Baldoni side of the case. Even if no direct contact existed, according to her, this is harassment. It's phishing. They don't care what I've said. They just want to scare me into silence. The community began connecting the dots. As more creators came forward, a chilling pattern emerged. Nearly every subpoenaed creator had spoken critically of Blake Lively or sympathetically about Justin Baldoni's position. Notably, none of the creators who framed Blake in a positive light reported any legal contact. This raised serious questions about selective targeting and potential abuse of the discovery process to punish dissent. But here's where things truly spiraled in a motion filed with the court just weeks ago. One of Lively's lead attorneys told the judge that only a handful of narrowly tailored subpoenas were issued to parties who had inserted themselves into the litigation. This statement was used to justify the court's decision not to issue sanctions against Blake's team. However, after media outlets obtained redacted copies of at least 30 for different subpoenas, the lie became clear. The legal team had grossly underrepresented the scale of their actions. Not only had they gone after dozens of individuals who had never inserted themselves into the case, they had done so without notifying the court, and in several instances without properly serving the recipients. That discrepancy led to an emergency filing by Baldoni's lawyers, who accused Blake's team of strategic misrepresentation and requested that the judge reevaluate previous rulings. Based on this alleged deception, public trust collapsed almost overnight. Legal commentators across TikTok, YouTube, and Twitter began dissecting the implications. Could this be grounds for a sanction? Could the judge issue a protective order to shield creators from being harassed? Could this be seen as an abuse of process? One prominent law professor tweeted, "If these allegations are true, Blake Lively's legal team has opened the door to serious consequences, both legally and reputationally. This goes beyond aggressive litigation. This is bordering on malicious prosecution." Meanwhile, the response from creators was swift and coordinated. Several of those who received subpoenas have now formed an informal legal coalition and retained group counsel. Their stated goal to push back on what they're calling a celebrity suppression campaign. They're planning to file a public response in court challenging the scope and legitimacy of the subpoenas and possibly even requesting their dismissal in full. Creators aren't just fighting back legally, they're going public with their stories. Andy Signore, a larger pop culture commentator with a significant YouTube following, revealed he had received legal threats from Blake's side for simply analyzing leaked texts and court transcripts. In a now-deleted tweet, he wrote, "They want to scare us. They want us to delete our coverage. This is textbook intimidation." The move to involve content creators in a high-profile celebrity lawsuit is unusual and controversial. Typically, discovery in legal cases focuses on parties directly involved, but here Blake's team appears to be casting a massive dragnet in an attempt to root out what they claim is coordinated misinformation and reputational damage. The problem is courts have traditionally upheld that media coverage, even critical media coverage, is not grounds for third-party subpoenas unless there is a clear and direct link to the underlying case, and in these creators' cases that link doesn't exist. One subpoenaed creator who spoke to an independent journalist on condition of anonymity said, "They're demanding I hand over my chats with another YouTuber just because we both posted a video on the same day. That's not evidence. That's absurd. I don't know anyone involved in this case. I don't have secret sources. I just read what was already public." But the real powder keg exploded when a group of creators released internal legal memos they obtained via third-party documents that appeared to show that Blake's team intended to flood creators with subpoenas as a PR tactic. One memo stated that applying legal pressure to repeat offenders in the media space may result in decreased circulation of harmful narratives. In plain English, they were hoping fear of being sued would silence critical coverage. And then came the cherry on top: a court stenographer's leaked transcript of a behind-the-scenes sidebar in which Blake's attorney allegedly admitted off-record that they were monitoring over 80 accounts and prepared to go further if the coverage does not improve. That quote ignited a firestorm. Creators began to wonder, how far would this go? Would TikTokers be next? Would meme accounts get dragged in? Would journalists who repost a critical opinion be considered fair game? The backlash was immediate. #BlakeAtarJetScritters began trending across Twitter and Instagram. Videos criticizing the move racked up millions of views. Even some of Blake's longtime fans began questioning the ethics behind her team's aggressive legal stance. And while Blake herself has remained publicly silent, sources close to the situation claim that she is personally aware of the subpoenas being issued and has even reviewed materials related to high-profile creators before the legal team moved forward. That raises even more troubling questions about intent. Because if Blake Lively, a celebrity who has carefully constructed her image as a stylish, witty, media-savvy woman of the people, is now seen as someone trying to bully independent voices into silence. Her brand is in deep trouble. The narrative is shifting from Hollywood star in a legal feud to Hollywood star, using her wealth to crush online critics. And with her lawyer now under scrutiny for potentially lying to a federal judge, the stakes couldn't be higher. While much of the internet was still reeling from the scope of the subpoenas, legal analysts began to weigh in on what this actually meant in terms of precedent. It's not unusual for celebrities to push back against invasive media coverage, but what's happening in Blake Lively's case feels unprecedented in scale and tone. Rather than suing a gossip outlet or issuing a cease and desist, Blake's team is now accused of systematically weaponizing the court system to target individuals who dared to comment on the lawsuit. Many of these people are not journalists, don't have legal training, and certainly don't have the resources to fight back. It's David versus Goliath, only this time Goliath is dressed in Chanel and flanked by a legal army. One legal expert who spoke to Variety under anonymity was blunt in their assessment. What Blake Lively's team is doing is aggressive and I would argue unethical. They're not targeting sources of false information. They're targeting the people amplifying public information. That's not illegal, but it's dangerous. And if it's done under false pretenses, as the court may find, it could lead to sanctions or even dismissal of their motions. As the scandal snowballed, reporters began combing through court transcripts, docket filings, and procedural motions, and what they uncovered only made things worse. There were at least 3 distinct occasions in which Blake's legal team described their subpoenas as necessary to identify malicious actors actively participating in a misinformation campaign. But that characterization doesn't hold up under scrutiny. Many of the creators subpoenaed had only quoted public documents or had offered clearly marked editorial opinions, not factual claims. In other words, they were doing exactly what free speech allows them to do. The court now finds itself in a difficult position. On one hand, it must allow the discovery process to proceed in good faith. On the other hand, it is now facing compelling evidence that Blake's lawyers misrepresented the breadth of their actions, and in doing so, they may have fundamentally misled the court. This is more than a paperwork issue, it's a matter of honesty and abuse of process. Adding more fuel to the fire, Justin Baldoni's legal team filed an explosive motion demanding that the court force Blake's lawyers to submit a full accounting of all subpoenas issued, including dates, recipients, and justification for each one. The motion reads like a battle cry. It accuses Blake's attorneys of deceptive practices, improper purpose, and intentional concealment, arguing that their subpoena campaign is part of a coordinated retaliation effort to stifle public discourse surrounding the case. Baldoni's lawyers also included affidavits from several creators who were served. One of the most damning came from a British pop culture analyst who described how she was served through her Patreon page despite never publishing anything but publicly available court quotes. In her statement, she wrote, "This is not about truth. This is about power. I have 40,000 subscribers. I'm not CNN. I'm not even BuzzFeed. But they wanted to scare me anyway." In response, Blake's publicist issued a vague and carefully worded statement. To The Hollywood Reporter, Ms. Lively remains committed to ensuring truth and transparency throughout this legal process. Any legal action taken on her behalf is done in accordance with court procedure and on the advice of legal counsel. The response was immediately met with backlash. Commentators quickly pointed out the irony of using the word transparency in the same breath as a campaign that appears rooted in secrecy and misrepresentation. The phrase truth and transparency even became a meme in the days that followed, used sarcastically under clips of Blake dodging paparazzi questions or refusing to comment on the controversy. But even as the court drama unfolds, the creators caught in the crossfire are dealing with very real consequences. Some have had videos demonetized after receiving legal threats. Others report lost sponsorships due to the uncertainty surrounding the subpoenas. A few creators even deleted entire channels out of fear of being dragged into court proceedings they can't afford to fight. For many, this has created a chilling effect, not just around this case, but around the idea of covering celebrity legal matters altogether. One smaller legal commentary channel posted an emotional video titled "I'm Done," in which the creator described sleepless nights and panic attacks after being contacted by Lively's team. "I thought I was just talking about a public case," they said, holding back tears. "I didn't know I was walking into a war. And all of this could have been prevented or at least tempered if Blake's attorneys had simply been honest with the court from the beginning. Instead, they tried to minimize their actions, misled the judge, and now face serious credibility issues." Judges do not take lightly to being lied to, especially in high-profile cases where public perception and procedural integrity are on the line. A former federal judge, now a legal analyst for MSNBC, was asked during a panel how the court might respond to this alleged deception. His answer was blunt: if the court finds they materially misled the bench, that could be grounds for sanctions, suppression of evidence, or outright rejection of their motions. In extreme cases, it could even warrant referral to the state bar. This scandal has now reached a point where it's not just about celebrities fighting in court. It's about systemic accountability, abuse of process, and what happens when powerful people use the law to silence criticism. The bigger picture: this case has turned into a litmus test for how far celebrities can go to control the narrative, and how much protection independent creators have in the digital age. Because if a Hollywood actress can subpoena a YouTuber for talking about public documents, and then lie about it to a judge, what stops the next star from doing the same? Some creators have started calling this the Hollywood playbook, referencing how celebrities use armies of lawyers to crush opposition. But Blake's situation stands out not just because of the volume of subpoenas, but because of how sloppily and arrogantly her team handled it. Rather than playing defense, they went on the offensive, and now they're paying the price. As the firestorm grows, Blake Lively's once pristine image is showing deep cracks. Public opinion is shifting fast. Even fans who once defended her are now asking tough questions. Why target people with no real connection to the case? Why lie to the court? And most of all, what is she so afraid they'll say? The internet is no longer just watching this lawsuit, it's investigating it. One Reddit thread dissecting the legal filings had over 40,000 upvotes in 12 hours. Multiple legal YouTubers have made mini documentaries on the subject, and podcasts from The Daily to Legal Eagle have weighed in. Many agree this isn't just unethical, it may be legally actionable. Meanwhile, YouTubers like Emily D. Baker and others with actual legal expertise are echoing a shared concern. If the court allows this to continue without reprimand, it sets a terrifying precedent. Because then any celebrity in any lawsuit could start abusing the subpoena system to go after journalists, creators, or even fans who voice unpopular opinions. At this point, it's no longer about Blake Lively versus Justin Baldoni. It's about Blake Lively versus public scrutiny, and she may be losing that battle far faster than she ever imagined. As the storm continued to rage, the court demanded answers. In a move that signaled real trouble for Blake Lively's legal team, the presiding judge issued an order to show cause, compelling her attorneys to provide full disclosure regarding the subpoenas. This wasn't just a polite request, it was a direct demand, with a short deadline asking for names, timelines, and a justification for every subpoena issued to any third party, particularly to media creators and commentators behind closed doors. Legal experts say this order is a clear indication that the court feels misled. Judges don't make these demands lightly, and if Lively's lawyers can't account for their actions with documented rationale and proper procedure, they could face everything from fines to disqualification motions or worse. Inside Hollywood, the situation is being referred to as Blake's backfire. What was supposed to be a clean, tight, well-managed PR and legal strategy to protect Blake's image and keep control of the narrative has now turned into a full-blown mess. Every legal filing is being scrutinized. Every interview Blake's ever given about her respect for journalism and support of creators is being reshared, now coated in bitter irony. To make matters worse, Ryan Reynolds, Blake's husband and frequent social media co-conspirator, is now being dragged into the public fallout. While he hasn't been named in the subpoena scandal directly, his silence is being noticed. The couple's once celebrated partnership is now under a shadow, with speculation growing about how much Ryan knew about the campaign to go after YouTubers. His brand, much like hers, is built on charm and relatability, and now both are facing questions about hypocrisy and control. Behind the scenes, multiple publicists have described the situation as untenable. One PR executive told Deadline, "You don't go after content creators and expect to come out clean. That world protects its own. It doesn't matter how famous you are, once it becomes clear you're trying to silence criticism, you're done." And indeed, creators have begun to fight back, not just legally but creatively. Several high-profile YouTubers have banded together to create a full-length documentary titled Subpoenaed: The Blake Lively Fallout, which will detail how the subpoenas were issued, how creators are organizing, and how this could impact the future of online commentary. Clips from court hearings, interviews with subpoenaed creators, and expert commentary are expected to drop within weeks, and the buzz around it is already enormous. And then came a twist no one saw coming: a leak from within Blake's own legal team. An anonymous tipster claiming to have access to internal communications at the law firm represented G. Lively sent files to several journalists and creators. The files included drafts of subpoenas that were never sent, email chains discussing target priorities among YouTubers, and perhaps most damning, a discussion about how far we can push without triggering protective motion from Baldoni's side. In one of the emails, a senior member of the legal team wrote, "We may need to slow the subpoenas down. We've hit 25 and already caught heat. PR is advising we go silent." That email, now verified and authenticated by two different digital forensics experts, destroyed any remaining illusion that the subpoenas were a neutral legal strategy. It revealed a coordinated PR-driven effort to control public discourse, one that factored in media blowback, creator backlash, and even the tone of the YouTube videos in question. The reaction was swift. The court scheduled an emergency status conference to address the leak and whether the email chain constitutes admission of misuse. Baldoni's lawyers wasted no time submitting the emails into the official court record, along with a blistering brief accusing Lively's legal team of waging a covert campaign of coercion. Under color of legal authority, even seasoned attorneys were shocked. A legal analyst for Rolling Stone tweeted, "This is like a law school exam on what not to do in discovery. If true, Lively's team is in serious ethical trouble. They're not just playing dirty, they're playing stupid." Meanwhile, a growing number of content creators are calling for Blake to personally respond. The silence, they argue, is its own kind of answer, and it's not the one her team was hoping for. Petitions are circulating demanding an apology. Others are asking the court to invalidate all the subpoenas and to bar Blake's team from engaging with online media participants for the duration of the case. Even legal groups are getting involved. The Electronic Frontier Foundation (EFF) issued a statement expressing concern about the inappropriate use of legal instruments to silence online speech, and confirmed they are monitoring the case closely. That's a big deal. When the EFF gets involved, it means the matter has moved beyond entertainment law and into constitutional territory, specifically First Amendment issues. And that's the real danger for Blake Lively. Because if this case escalates into a legal battle about free speech rights, discovery abuse, and digital retaliation, it will outlast the original lawsuit by years and stain her public image in ways no amount of PR can fix. She may win the case against Justin Baldoni, but she could still lose the war over public perception, freedom of the press, and creator rights. Content creators are increasingly being seen not as fringe voices but as legitimate media figures, with influence, audience, and legal protections. Trying to shut them down because they criticize you isn't just distasteful. It may now be legally indefensible. In the wake of the subpoenas, major influencers and creators with millions of followers have begun openly mocking Blake's legal tactics. Memes are everywhere, parody videos, reaction breakdowns. Some creators are even wearing "Subpoena Me Blake" shirts in solidarity. The internet has turned Blake's legal offensive into a pop culture punchline, and that's not something she can PR her way out of. As it stands, the case is teetering on the edge of another escalation. The judge has given Blake's team one last opportunity to submit a full, truthful accounting of their subpoena campaign. If they fail, the court could issue protective orders, sanctions, or even strike parts of Blake's legal filings from the record. Even worse, the court might rule that any evidence obtained through these subpoenas is inadmissible, which would effectively destroy Blake's attempt to link online commentary to defamation damages. In other words, all of this may have been for nothing, and it may end up hurting her more than it helped. What's next is anyone's guess. The legal battle rages on. Justin Baldoni's team has made it clear they're not backing down. The creators are organizing. The public is watching. And Blake Lively is increasingly boxed into a corner by her own actions and those of the people she trusted to represent her. At the heart of this controversy lies a question that's far bigger than Blake Lively, Justin Baldoni, or even the dozens of content creators now caught in the crossfire. It's a question about power: who has it, how it's used, and what happens when it's abused. In a world where digital creators have become some of the most trusted and influential voices online, the notion that a powerful celebrity can use the legal system to intimidate those voices into silence is more than alarming, it's dangerous. Blake Lively, a woman once admired for her intelligence, wit, and apparent authenticity, is now facing a reckoning. Her silence has become deafening, her team's tactics are unraveling, and her carefully curated public image is buckling under the weight of this growing scandal. Once perceived as an advocate for women, media freedom, and artistic expression, Blake now stands accused of undermining the very values she publicly embraced. What began as a legal dispute over defamation has morphed into something much larger: an ugly, sprawling campaign of legal intimidation that has drawn criticism from civil rights groups, legal experts, creators, and even former fans. Her legal team's decision to target critics, misrepresent the scope of their actions, and potentially lie to a federal judge may have sealed her fate in the court of public opinion. And if the court decides to act on these alleged abuses, The legal consequences could be just as devastating. For content creators, this moment is galvanizing. The YouTube and commentary communities are pushing back, demanding protections, transparency, and accountability. They're not just reacting, they're organizing. This scandal has revealed the fragility of their rights when up against Hollywood money and legal muscle, but it has also demonstrated their strength when they stand together. They are not disposable, they are not silent, and they are not afraid. Blake Lively may have wanted to control the narrative, but in trying to do so, she ignited a firestorm she can no longer contain. She turned a lawsuit into a movement. And unless she takes responsibility, the damage to her reputation may become permanent. This is no longer just about YouTubers getting subpoenaed. It's about the line between legal defense and legal abuse. It's about whether celebrities should be allowed to crush dissenting voices, simply because they have the resources to do so. It's about whether the court will protect the powerful or stand with those who dare to speak truth to it, and right now the whole world is watching.